Hi and welcome. In this video I will show, this video is about riding safely in traffic. What I will show in this video and what I will recommend should be taken as this is what's worked for me, what I think is safe and what I do. So different cities and different countries have different traffic laws, and that is why I think it's important to make this disclaimer. If you are not an adult and you are watching this, please watch it with a responsible adult, so that if I say or recommend something that is not going to work well in your area, you can adjust your practice and disregard my advice. So that's one thing. And this whole video, at the end of the video, I will talk a bit about some catches, gotchas and caveats, but the main idea and the main principle is be visible, noticeable and predictable in traffic and remain calm, and that does it. That's what works for me, at least. So without further talk, let's start with the fun stuff. A note to more easily follow this video: here you can see in the top right hand corner the camera that is on my forehead, that shows basically what I see, and behind me is a friend with a bicycle mounted with a camera on his bicycle that shows the image from the back. And to use this occasion of waiting on a traffic light to explain that when I turn my head left and right, my eyes can turn even further. So whenever you see camera on my forehead, the top right hand corner tilting left right, I'm usually checking behind my shoulder and the blind spot, so I can see a lot further than the camera can show, but that's what I'm doing when I'm looking around. And here I decided to go towards the right hand side, because sometimes drivers are on their phones and they don't stop at the traffic light and they can hit you from behind. So I prefer to be a bit out of their way when I'm waiting on traffic lights, and it's perfect when there is one car in front of me in case of some other cars running the red light that come from the sides. So here you will be able to see when the green light turns on. Here it is. I'm checking behind my shoulder to see if it's okay to move to the middle of the lane, so that I'm more visible to the oncoming traffic that is turning left now, and so that no car can easily do a right hook if they start overtaking me and then decide to turn right without signaling. Here I'm staying away from the door zone. For people watching this in England or Australia or I think Japan, everything is the same but in reverse, because we drive on the right hand side. And here I just merged to the lane for going straight, and now I'm checking over my shoulder and moving further inwards towards the middle of the road to stay out of the door zone, which you will see in a moment why is very important. And this is a mistake. Here I was curious to see what's going on in front, instead of turning all the way to the side of the road so that no car coming from behind can hit me if they are on their phone texting instead of looking where they're driving, which happens too often. Here another check over my shoulder to move away from the door zone. So I'm moving towards the middle of the road, the middle of my lane. And here in a few seconds you can see why this is very important. Camera angle can be deceiving, but here you can see I have a lot of room away from the doors of parked cars. So if someone jumps between the parked cars or some car starts pulling in without signaling or anything like that, I have more room and more time to react. Braking hard can be also hazardous, because vehicles coming from behind might hit me from behind. So I try to be predictable and don't make many sudden maneuvers or sudden moves. And here I'm moving further to the left, because cars that discourages the drivers from trying to overtake me in the middle of the intersection. And this is a very unsportsmanlike move from me. I should have waited before the pedestrian crossing instead of blocking it like this. So that's a mistake. And here I want to move left, so I'm checking over my shoulders if it is safe enough to merge to the left turning lane. Otherwise, I would have went straight forward to the intersection and then crossed over at the zebra crossing as a pedestrian. So there are options, and if you are not certain, that always works. I don't generally rely on drivers noticing me merging in and letting me merge in, because they are often on their phones. So if it is not clear the situation, I go and use a zebra crossing. Bicycle cannot accelerate as fast as a motorcycle. Okay, so here I took a look in the driver's eyes to make sure they noticed me, and I'm checking over my shoulder if they are going to try to overtake me from the right hand side before I merge over and let the driver who is very anxious to overtake me, and then I'm moving away from the completely to the right hand side. Because of all these parked cars, I want to have a bit of a better view and more space to react. Okay, so here I'm signaling and turning right. This street hasn't got many parked cars or other things blocking the view, so as I pass this fence, I can move further to the right hand side and stay closer to the right hand side, leaving room for cars to overtake me more easily. And as I approach an intersection, I wish to turn left, so I'm signaling, checking over my shoulder and moving closer to the middle of my lane and to the left side of my lane. But not completely, because this road is quite narrow and cars that come from the other direction sometimes take too much room, so that's a bit of experience, local situation. Here I will be moving to a separate bicycle lane. We have a lot of those in my city with all their pros and cons, and here I need to first give way to any other cyclists or pedestrians, so I'm checking, then turning and signaling to turn left. Here, as I wait on a traffic light, you will see when the traffic light turns green, I first make a check to see if there are any cars coming before I start, because traffic lights don't hit people, cars do. So even though I have a green light to go, I still make a check to make sure that no cars is running through the red light. Here I will signal, turning check, making a shoulder check if someone is overtaking me, and signaling to turn left and moving through a very beautiful street. My city, Novi Sad, is a very beautiful city. Here I will move further to the middle of my lane to discourage drivers from making a right hook scenario that I will try to show now in a picture to explain what scenario it is that I'm trying to avoid. So this is the problem, and if you stay too far to the side of the road, drivers are quite encouraged to try something like that. And even if you're turning right, it still can be very unpleasant and hazardous, because they sort of like cut you out with their vehicle. This is red light. I'm moving, slowing down, moving to the right hand side to let any impatient drivers overtake me, but it's now turning green. I'm making a check over my shoulder and merging in, going through the intersection, and I'm looking left and right to make sure that no car runs a red light and to react if they do. Here I'm looking forward, planning ahead. There are some strangely parked cars, so I'm checking over my shoulders and moving to the middle of the lane so that I have enough room if some car starts pulling out or someone runs between those parked cars or anything like that. I don't want to make any sudden movements towards the middle of the road into some car that might be overtaking me or similar. So I try to react in time and to be predictable and not make any sudden maneuvers. That's the whole point. And here the situation is clear, more visibility, so I can move further to the right hand side. This is where I will try to turn into another lane for turning left, making a check over my shoulder and switching lanes. I could have waited a bit longer, but there was another bicycle behind me, so I wanted to do it in time so that we can both move. And here I'll be signaling with my hand to just let all the drivers know what I plan to do. And here we're waiting on a red light, I could have just dismounted and pushed the bike over the zebra crossing, then on the other side in your left corner, to make like 2 crossings as a pedestrian, and that works. But here I wanted to show how it's done if you are like in a traffic, really riding in traffic. And here I'm waiting. I pulled into the intersection and stopped to wait without moving too much to the right, because I expect cars to overtake me from the right hand side. This car with an arrow started off without signaling. They were stationary, parked, and that's another thing to pay attention to. So always expect the craziest things. Here I'm checking over my shoulder and moving further to the center of my lane, just to be safe from any cars pulling out without looking. Again, the situation with the car parked within the lane, so I moved almost all the way to the middle of the road, in time, safely, predictably. And here again, the same situation, but there's a car maneuvering and the driver probably does not notice me even if I am in their field of vision. So I already started slowing down, getting ready to stop without braking suddenly. That's important because I don't want to be hit with a car from behind. And here, this is where the driver noticed me. Some drivers freeze, some step on the gas, some act as if nothing happened. If it's all normal, that was the situation in this case. And I had enough time to slowly stop or to avoid them, behind them going. And in this case, nothing was needed, just a gradual slow down to let them pass. So it looks a lot more tricky in the video than it was in real life, but I'm always trying to plan for the drivers doing silly things. Here again, we're turning into another road. There's a stop sign that I didn't stop at because it's very clearly visible from a bicycle if there are any cars coming or not. So even though this was technically a bad thing to do, but I do that all the time, as long as I can see and be sure that it's safe. Here I'm moving again out of the door zone in time, without any sudden moves, and now the situation is clear, so I can move back and let the drivers overtake me easily. Here there's a lane on the right, and I'm moving out of this lane to let the drivers go past without slowing the traffic down, and as the road narrows down, I am checking over my shoulder and merging back in. Now I will show how to cross an intersection as a pedestrian or as a bicycle, but using bicycle paths, and I will show a bad case of filtering. So what I did here was very unsportsmanlike, because driver is turning to the right, and this is very inconvenient for them. They don't know what I will do, so I'm now freaking them out as I'm doing this, filtering like this as they are trying to turn right. Sorry. So that's something that I don't think is very nice and very smart and very safe to do. But here I moved off the road, so here I'm waiting for the green light, checking over left to see if there are any cars coming, and this black car, I saw the eyes of the driver to make sure they're letting me pass, and that's when I was sure that I don't have to stop to let them pass. Okay, so here we are at an intersection, waiting for the green light, and again, as the light turns green, I first need to confirm that there are no cars coming to run me over. And here a car didn't stop, so I started moving slowly but on my brakes, and only when they saw me starting to move they decided, okay, they'll let me pass, but I was ready to try and avoid them or to stop without getting my bicycle damaged or without getting injured, but that's always tricky. And that is about it. We are going back to the bat cave. Thank you for watching. I hope you find this video useful or at least interesting. Okay, so now after this video, just to mention a few things. For example, traffic law in my country says that you must always stay within 1 meter of the right hand side of the road. So all the way to the curb. 1 meter is this wide, from my shoulder to to my arm. That is the width of 1 meter. Your whole bicycle and all the parts should be within 1 meter from the right hand side of the road. I hope I will not get fined or arrested after this video. It was intended as an instructional video to help you stay safe in traffic and to show that it is not a dangerous thing to use a bicycle for commuting or for recreational riding, even in traffic. At least that's my opinion. And so that law is something that I disregard intentionally, because on some occasions when I'm riding near cars that are parked within their door zone, you can see that in the video, sometimes that door will open suddenly just as you are arriving, so you can break your kneecaps, or they could turn your bars into the direction away from the road, which will mean that your bicycle will lean and you will most likely fall towards the middle of the road, which can be dangerous if a vehicle is approaching or if someone is overtaking you. That is why I deliberately disregard that law in situations when it is not safe. Moving within your lane to the left or right can make you more noticeable and it can provide you with more time to react and with a better viewing distance. Of course, I don't think it's sportsmanlike to take the middle of the road when there is no reason to do so. I often make room for the cars to overtake me. Sometimes if there's a queue of cars behind me, I would even stop and move out of the way to let them pass and then go on, because on bicycle there are no traffic jams. I get everywhere easily and I don't have to worry about that. Which brings us to another topic, and that is filtering, in other words, moving between stationary cars. I did that in this video in a situation where I wanted to turn off the road completely. Otherwise, in a scenario like that, when cars are likely to turn to the right, it's not a safe thing to do, regardless of whether you want to go straight or turn to the right, because you're risking of them hitting you. But regardless of that, what I did in the video was to go slowly and cautiously and take a look inside the cabin to see if someone is planning to open the doors or something, and I was ready on my brakes to stop. So there is some risk to it, but if you do it at the speed that allows you to stop in time and see what's going on, I consider it to be a fairly safe practice, and I do it regularly when I see that there are lines of cars in a jam. I don't see a reason for me to wait in line, even though that's in some countries it's allowed. I think in England and maybe in the United States and California. Correct me if I'm wrong, but in my country that is legally by the traffic laws not allowed, but that is something that I also never stick to it. But when I see that it is safe, that's what I do. However, this video is not intended to encourage you to break the law. Quite the contrary. My main point is that it makes sense to put pressure on the legislation bodies to make the laws be reasonable and safe, so that following the law does not make you less safe than not following it, and also to do what's necessary to stay safe, to be visible and predictable. That is my main point. So for one example, in my city, when I was a kid, you were not technically legally allowed to ride a bicycle on one-way streets in the opposite direction. But now most one-way streets in my city that are wide enough have a sign that says for bicycles you can go the wrong way, because it makes sense. You're approaching the vehicles, they can see you in time, and it's safe. There's enough room to pass by each other. So that is one example when a law did not make sense, and fortunately the people who write laws decided to change that. However, that's not always the case for every situation. I will not bother you with the nonsense of our traffic law, because I hope your laws are better, but I hope you find this video helpful and useful, and thank you very much for watching. And if you have any comments or questions, use the comment section below. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe as always, and that's it. Cheers.